Welcome everybody. First things first, as always, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, please, to make sure I know I'm not talking to myself. Make sure you guys can see my charts clearly, you can hear my voice clearly, all that sort of good stuff. And when we are confirmed, I will get started here. Guys, we've had some nice volatility lately, even a nice refreshing bounce from Bitcoin. I do want to talk about some positive things today. Okay, I know a lot of people know that I've been generally quite bearish, and to be honest, I still am, but I will give credit where credit is due. There's a few things I want to talk to from a bullish stance today. And of course, as always recently, some of the bearish as well. Sounds good. Right on. Got Stu 2 in the house. Welcome back, Stu. Right on. Welcome, everybody. Well, first of all, thank you guys for being here with me. Guys, I'm starting to finally see some weakness here on Bitcoin's little trend here, but honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised if we go a little bit higher yet. You guys know on the 4-hour, I have been quite vocal about the fact we actually never quite got down to my next long entry here, unfortunately. As far as a nice 4-hour setup, anyways, I am in a bit of a long I took yesterday, but it was supposed to just be a scalp, but it turned into a runner. Love when that happens. But yeah, unfortunately never got down to this target here. But something that I want to talk about is if we do get rejected early here, another potential long setup. But yeah, guys, as far as the macro trend goes, I know it's exciting to see Bitcoin climbing, but just understand that we have not actually broke any bearish structure. The 4-hour, we still, as long as we're below 95K, this has been my line in the sand, guys, for the last several weeks. Yes, I've been taking longs in between. I've been taking shorts in between. I'm trading both directions. But the overall trend of this market, just from this picture I have on the screen right here, we have our low, our lower low. The highest point between the two is our lower high. That range has not broken. Therefore, that range is still very much in play. The fact the bottom has not been taken out, the top has not been taken out. We still have this range. This range is still pushing to the downside. So that's all there is to it. I wish I had better news, but I don't. But quite honestly, like I said, there is some bullish things that I want to talk about that could end up shaping up here relatively soon. But as it stands, from a straight up structural point of view on the 4-hour, we need above 95K. And honestly, even up towards 98K. You can see this Stuber fib, the invalidation is actually around 97.8, so call it 98. That lines up with a few other things that I'm going to talk about in a little bit here. But yeah, basically that would be perfectly reasonable to expect some sort of a fake out, a liquidity grab, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to have to see, right? I mean, so far on this trend, Bitcoin has been having a hell of a time since January 20th, has been having a hell of a time even getting to those Stuber fib levels to get those nice bearish swings on the 4-hour like that. So we're going to have to see what happens. Like I said, already seeing some red flags on the shorter time frames. I ended up taking another bit of a short. Like I said, I am in a long from yesterday. I ended up taking a little bit of a short here. I did end up warning in the Telegram that things were starting to look a little bit weaker. So basically with my Trendmaster indicator, we ended up getting a lower sell signal. That's a big red flag for me. And then second of all, I was talking about looking for this Fibonacci setup for some sort of a Stuber scalp there. We actually never ended up quite getting to that level. I just want to show where that was, because that was actually... Where was that? That fib from that screenshot was pulled from up here, and we actually never quite made it to the 786. We got rejected a little bit early. We formed another lower high signal on my auto charting tools and basically pulled a fib from there. We started getting rejected right around that 786. And since we had the trend of the lower trending buy signals, the lower trending sell signals, I often talk about this confluence in my streams that I don't really like to bet against that all too much. So this was a big warning for me that things may be turning around. So again, this was just meant to be a bit of a scalp. My stop loss is in a profit now. I'm actually going to bump that up a little bit because this indicator is pushing to the downside. And since I took this trade on the 1 minute, I'm not expecting this to go You know, I know some of you guys have been around for my weekly targets where I'm eyeing up levels below 70K even. And whether or not that happens, I don't know. It's not like I'm entering a trade on the 1 minute and hoping for that kind of, well, actually, let me rephrase that. I am absolutely hoping for that kind of an outcome from the trade on a 1 minute, but I'm not expecting it, right? I have already been taking a little bit of profits on the way. I'm out of half the position, and half the position can run. I'm going to bump up my stop loss a little bit. And just to show you how I'm going to do that, I'm going to pull a Stuber fib here. And basically, if this gets invalidated, I am going to be stopped out of the rest of my position. So a beautiful profit either way, just looking at it as a bit of a scalp. Give me a second just to actually update that position here before I get sidetracked. And we are good to go. So yeah, basically we have this little downtrend that is formed. Even if we get some sort of a buy signal, I assume then, you know, if we're going to keep getting the trend, I would just start looking for more Fibonacci pulls to the downside at this point on the lower time frames until that gets invalidated, basically. But like I said, I am in a bit of a long, and something that I want to talk about with my long position, you guys, is like I said, it was also just very much a little scalp position, just something like this that turned into a runner. But a friend had brought this hype chart to my attention on the 4 hour, basically looking at, you know, it looked like we had a nice break in structure, and we started kind of looking for entries a little bit. And I was like, you know, something that I would like to see here, being we got this structure break where we broke a bunch of the lower highs here. The fact that we broke this structure now, I would love to see a pullback to the Stuber fib. It does not mean that it's going to happen, but this is very much a long setup on Hyperliquid that I would be interested in taking a stab at. Obviously, it would take a while till we get down to those levels, and that's more of a swing position because it's a 4 hour. But I would be very interested in kind of eyeing up these levels, basically. And like I said, when I'm looking at the 4 hour, when I'm looking at this type of a setup, that means support kind of starting at the 786, right? But if you're looking for laddering into an entry, something like that, or just waiting, what I like to do, I usually like to wait until I see on the lower time frame that I get a very similar pattern playing out. So a similar Stuber fib setup on, let's say, the 1 minute or the 5 minute as we're approaching this level. In that case, I would be willing to take a stab at a long on that kind of thing. So anyways, we were basically looking at that. And then I noticed on the 1 minute, Bitcoin had basically the same thing. I ended up, my entry just got missed here, but I ended up taking it a little bit later. So not the ideal entry, but whatever. Obviously, it ended up just turning into a runner. So obviously only got a very small position in because I never hit my other laddered entries or anything like that. But again, that was just meant to be a scalp. I was just kind of bumping up the stop loss as we went, and it just turned into a runner. So I still have a little chunk of that position running. But yeah, basically, whenever I'm in a nice position going one way, if I start to see weakness on that position, I don't mind taking a hedge the other direction. I ended up taking a little bit of a loss on a hedge short that I tried to take earlier. But then this one, when I waited for the indicators to line up there, so far it's been playing out great. So love to see what I see right here. Nice to see that we just, like I said, lower sell signals, lower buy signals. I love to see it. Let's hop over to the 4 hour chart again, you guys. Like I said, if we end up breaking that downtrend relatively soon, or if we end up pulling back significantly and getting a bounce like that, I still don't think that 91K is off the table, just because, again, that's such a beautiful looking Stuber fib on the 4 hour. If we end up getting up there, doesn't have to happen, just like this small bullish one never happened, right? I never quite got my entries there. What I'm looking for right now, if we do see a little bit of a rejection right now, it doesn't necessarily mean this uptrend is over, but notice that we do have this little structure change. This is just the micro uptrend, you guys. Like I said, the overall downtrend is still very much to the downside. But just on this trend, since we've bottomed currently, we do have this high, higher high that confirms our higher low. So I could pull a fib something like this. This is very much so an trade setup that I'm interested in looking for, basically a new short, a new long, if the rest of my other long gets stopped at break even. Then at that point, I would look for something in here. Again, it might not happen, just like it didn't happen back here, but that's kind of the ideal setup that I'm looking for. And honestly, you guys, again, it's not that I'm bullish. I want to make that very clear. Yes, I see reasons to take bullish positions. This does not mean that I think all-time highs are around the corner or anything like that. It's just that I'm willing to cover my positions, basically. You know what? If I'm already in a short from up here and we end up dropping down here, I'd love to get into a hedge, because whenever you get into a nice hedge, not just trading both directions at the same time, hedging properly is very different than that. It's actually taking a long at support and taking a short at resistance. But yeah, basically that's a very stress-free position to be in, because then you can just kind of take profits off both as you go, and just kind of update your stop loss, eventually cut one and let the other one run, kind of a thing. But yeah, so that's kind of that would be a level as far as the 4 hour that I would be interested in. And that basically starts around, call it 84.5 down to 83.8. And then the lower, or the higher low there is actually around 83.1, and invalidation would be, I would say, just below the 115. So kind of around just below 82.3, kind of a thing, but basically like this little fib setup. But yeah, so I am going to leave this box here now as a constant reminder for me that if we come down to this level, I want to look for lower time frames to find some sort of a long setup. Just like if we end up getting up to this resistance level, I will be very eagerly searching for short positions, because again, the trend's still to the downside there, and I just can't ignore that yet. Even if I bring up that same trend master indicator, yes, we have a buy signal, but it's a lower buy signal, right? We've just had a nice series of lower sells and lower buy signals since we topped out there. And even though it's a buy signal, it's still to the downside, right? So I don't want to take this signal all too serious. Although, I mean, to be fair, it did play out nice, right? I mean, taking a position off of this buy trend, yeah, absolutely. I had plenty of time to take some profits off a long position like that. It just doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a full-on shift in trend, basically, right? All right, now something else I want to talk about. The weekly chart, you guys. The RSI still has not broke my trend line. It's we're getting close to that level, but understand that we are getting close to, I know it always looks strongest as we're getting to resistance, just like the price does, right? Just like when price gets to resistance, the bulls always look strongest and everyone feels FOMO. Just like here, everyone's thinking, everyone desperately wants that breakout rather than playing the rejection for some reason. It's just, you know, that most people have a bit of a bullish bias and they like to see breakouts. But the fact that the RSI is getting near resistance as our 4 hour is starting to get near resistance, those two things may end up lining up and being a little bit of a heavy sell wall. You know, we might end up seeing a very nasty rejection from that based on that. That being said, if we close the weekly candle and we are breaking out of this, and we can confirm that with another weekly candle next week, for example, yeah, you know, we break this downtrend line and I feel very different about the market than I do right now while we're trading below it. The wave master indicator, yeah, we still had this big bearish reversal sign right at the top. We don't have a new bullish reversal yet. Something to consider there. This is a new indicator for you guys. So basically with this indicator, it's a capital flow index, another MDX ALGO indicator. But something that caught my eye today is that the stable coin right here seems to be getting near topping out here and seeing a bit of a rejection. So the way that basically looks to me is that stable coins, well, the demand for them is starting to lessen. So stable coin money is going back into the market. We're seeing shit coins getting very near a bottom where things look like they're kind of starting to reverse. Large cap coins are starting to get a bounce. So there's some signs there on the weekly time frame with that indicator that are lining up too. So like I said, there's a few things that are starting to turn around on some indicators, but again, the structure is still very much to the downside. And you know, especially with my RSI here, like I said, it looks like it wants to break out, but it's getting near resistance. So take it for what it is. Something else I wanted to point out with this is with my AI charting tools, you guys. Notice we do have a higher low printed with this indicator down here. And I have mentioned that this Fibonacci pull basically, and that's something that I actually look at on lower time frames as well with this indicator. Is I love, actually you saw me pull from a lower high earlier looking for a rejection point. Very much the opposite here, looking for, you know, pulling from a higher low, looking for where we would find support. If this was a 5-minute or a 1-minute chart, I would be looking for support in my purple box here, the Stuber fib from that 786 down to the 886, which unfortunately is down at 63 to 56K. Not saying we have to go there, but there's just a few things lining up with that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're bearish, right? That just means that we could get a nice healthy bounce off that level. That being said, just because we get a bounce off that level, because in my opinion, if we hit this support level, we will get a bounce and it will be pretty aggressive in my opinion. And people will get very excited about it. That doesn't necessarily mean the bottom is in, you guys. Just understand that's a very, very, very obvious buy level. Because like I said, that's my ideal setup on any time frame. And I'm not going to ignore it on a weekly. I would assume we'd get one hell of a bounce. But that doesn't mean that the structure is actually to the upside at that point yet. You know, there is something I want to bring up with our liquidations indicator here. Most of the liquidations are starting to be to the downside. They're starting to not be too many to the upside on a longer time frame like this. Shorter time frames, yes, there is still some, but just on a macro point of view, we are starting to see that. With the liquidation bands, notice that it's still way down here around 31, 32K. And it is way too early to be suggesting this, but again, just I am open for anything. And if we end up going into a bear market, you know, the full on Stuber fib of this whole bull market, that indicator is basically smack in the middle of that 786, 886 fib pocket. So again, just seeing some things lining up as well. I can bring up the volume delta indicator. Notice that the point of control on this indicator is down around 27, 28K. So yeah, obviously it's early to be predicting that kind of thing, but just understand what could happen if we happen to be in a bear market right now, because I don't think it's impossible. I know it sounds ridiculous, but just going over this monthly chart, you guys know I pointed this out recently. These are the 5 times an order block on the monthly time frame has broken. And all 5 of those times so far, well, let's say the previous 4 that have broken were complete cycle reversers, right? When we had this one break, that was the start of our bull market. The break of this one, start of our bull market. Break of this one here, continuation of our bear market, I guess. We could call it the start, but really the bear market was almost half over. But right now, same thing, right? We have that same structure break. This is only the second time in Bitcoin's history that we've seen this on the monthly chart. It has happened 5 times if you count both directions now, but as far as the bearish, it's only happened once before. So, I mean, we're going to have to take it for what it is. But even the fact that what happened so far, we've already flipped this support where we ended up pushing the price a little bit higher for this little swing fail here. Yes, microanalyzing, but it's the monthly, so there's a lot of data here. And when we lost that support, we ended up retesting it as resistance perfectly. So, I mean, where this candle is right now, I mean, we have one more week of this monthly candle, basically exactly. And just understand that we are still consolidating below this level here. Both that box and even the wick there. I mean, if the bulls want any hope of continuation in this bull market, they need to reclaim that. They need to reclaim that desperately, because that support resist flip looks absolutely atrocious to me right now. I know that the general public loves, and people on Twitter loves to say, when in doubt, zoom out. And that's meant to be naturally a bullish statement, because yes, over time, obviously over time, it goes to the upside. But the further I zoom out from a realistic point of view, like as far as market cycles and, you know, anything 1 month and below charts, the further out I zoom out, the more bearish I get. Like the 4 hour I'm okay with, but yes, it is still looking like it's bearish structure until we break 95. The weekly, yeah, it looks a little bit worse because we dropped this level. And honestly, even if we saw some kind of a bounce, if this was a 5 minute or a 1 minute, I'd be looking for a Stuber fib rejection around 102 to 106K. So I have my very serious concerns with that weekly chart. And then the monthly just looks like the structure's completely effed. That's all there is to it. But again, these things can change, right? These things can change any given time. Yes, if we get some sort of a big engulfing green candle here and we break this structure, we reclaim this SR flip. The weekly reclaims this RSI downtrend line. All these things we start to see. Then in that case, I will be a moon boy again. It's just that right now it's a little bit hard to when we still see so much weakness come in. When anything fundamentally is happening, when we're seeing bullish tweets come out, we're seeing bullish things in the government come out. At the very best, it seems like we're getting somewhat of a relief rally to a lower high. But typically in a bull market, I would think that, bullish fundamentals typically push us to a new slightly higher high, and then we can pull back and get that, get a nice pullback and retest support and then take off from there, continue an uptrend. But so far, every time we get bullish fundamentals rammed down our throats, we just set a lower low and a lower high. And that has not changed since January 20th. So until that changes, I have to hold on to my bearish bias. But again, I'm starting to see reasons for both. Like I said, I do have a bit of a long position running. I'm still willing to take mostly hedges long. Usually I'm taking longs when I'm already in a nice short. But it is what it is. I'm not afraid to play the long side right now, but as we get closer and closer to that 4-hour resistance, I'll be getting more and more careful with any sort of bullish plays. Just like on the other side, when I think that, when we get down towards these levels, down towards support, yeah, I'm probably still going to feel bearish and I might still be willing to play the bearish side of things, but I'll be playing it a little bit differently. Well, actually not even so much, but I'll still be looking at downsizing my positions quickly and updating my stop losses and stuff. Because even though I will be having those FOMO feelings, just like everybody wanting to short into support, if I do that, I am going to understand very much so that, hey, I am shorting into support. So any lower time frame signs of strength or anything, I am getting out of there. I will have that type of mindset going into it, basically. And guys, for those of you who are interested in trading based on charts rather than, tweets and fundamentals, and just want to stay one step ahead of the markets based entirely on price action, no emotions attached, and you want more of my thoughts on the market in general, some of my trade setup ideas and that sort of thing, do yourself a favor and get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link and following the steps in the description down below. Like I said, even this little drop that we're seeing right now, I was warning about there was signs in the market. Got some educational content in there for you guys. There is going to be some new educational content coming. I just haven't got around to it. I was busy this weekend, had stuff going on. Just a busy last couple weeks, but I do plan on bringing some other stuff. Also, this short I took yesterday, this was laid out well in advance, got my first entry basically, and then we just started breaking structure on the 1 minute like crazy, and it was just the chart was moving flawlessly. Basically, it was just respecting chart technical analysis on a very micro level so well. But yeah, just some previous calls that I made in that channel. So like I said, if that is something that interests you, do yourselves a favor, get in there. Like I said, guys, I was very ready for this bearish price action to happen. And so were all of you who are in my Telegram, because to me, this was very much a trade setup I was waiting for since before Christmas. I saw it lining up for a double top with that bearish divergence, played out absolutely perfectly, just like last time, got a 30% correction to the downside. So yeah, we're going to have to see what happens from there. But that is kind of some important levels that I'm currently watching. This 1 minute still just trending aggressively to the downside. So even now we have another lower low, lower high. The indicator is showing a lower low right here. And since we've actually broke significantly lower since, I would say this is a nice lower high. But honestly, even this one, as far as a micro stance goes, low, lower low, lower high. So as far as the very micro trend, I mean, you could even be trying to look for a scalp something like this, but obviously at some point this trend is going to break. So as we keep going, it's getting riskier and riskier to short into it. Let me just map out a little box here. And it kind of lines up with the resistance of this trend. So yeah, I still like that. As long as we're doing this downtrend here, I'm just going to hang on to the rest of that short. I am going to do what I did earlier just to bump up my stop loss a little bit. Call it 633, just to make sure that I end up paying myself on my position a little more. Just kind of chasing the structure, right? Yeah, it's just 1 minute structure, but I entered this position as a scalp, and I'm just basically following the structure with my stop loss, leaving a little extra wiggle room. But other than that, that's kind of my goal here, because if we just end up blasting through this, then it's very possible we recover back towards the top of this, right? Because where did we have our last sell signal? Was way back here. So I'd be interested if we now get a buy signal with my indicator and invalidate this. I would still be considering the possibility of a downtrend with these indicators, and I would be looking at pulling a fib from this structure up here still. That's just using my indicators as a little bit of confluence for a setup to watch for, which those indicators are also available in the description down below. Anybody interested in them, I know I bring them up in my videos quite often, in my live streams, on some of my analysis in the Telegram, all that sort of stuff. There is a link for that as well. Let me catch up on the chat a little bit here, you guys. And I am going to play some gentle, chill tunes while I catch up a little bit here, till I decide I need to rant about the price again. Keep it quite quiet, but let me know if it gets annoying or too loud or anything. All right, from the start, Adrian, LFG, let's go, brother. I know you have very similar thoughts as I do on this market. Sports Guru, hopefully I kind of answered your question there. I did point out a nice bullish 4-hour fib, as well as the 4-hour fib on Hype, as well as kind of what I looked for last night on a 1 minute. And honestly, just the exact opposite of what I've been showing on this downtrend, right? I would be looking for structure to break, but even the 1 minute doesn't seem to be able to break a lower high structure right now. So there is just no bullish setup yet for me. Hurley, good to see you here. Crypto Life, Dead Cat Bounce. I personally agree with that, but we will see, obviously. And here's the thing, guys, is honestly, we could analyze all day. We can find our important levels and whatnot. At the end of the day, all that matters is the execution of your trades, because I could be mega bearish right now and someone else in here could be mega bullish, and we could both trade. Hell, we could take the trade in the opposite direction at the exact same time, and depending how we play it, we could both be profitable or we could both lose. So understand that as well. Very important. Use the replay feature on Tradingview. Kind of get an understanding for a trade setup that you can spot over and over, so you can actually replicate your trade setup, not just get lucky on a gut feeling. Ryan, yeah. Price looks good. Might be recovering. Feeling positive. Nothing can jinx it now. Stu YouTube notification comes in. The dreaded Stu Bear fibs. No, but like I said, there's some things to watch for, and that's why I talk about, having invalidations and stuff, because it doesn't matter which way you're looking at things, as long as you have invalidations to how you're actually trading and just having a backup plan in general, basically. I mean, all you can really do is prepare for, hey, if this happens, this is how I'm going to react. I could sit here and say, well, what if Bitcoin breaks out and smashes all-time highs? Yeah, what if it does? How do you trade that by saying, what if it's going to happen? I would rather trade the charts that are already here rather than just hoping that something happens. And that's exactly why I haven't changed my bearish tune, you guys. It's not that I love being a perma bear, although I kind of do. I love being a moon boy as well, but just understand that I got bearish right around Christmas. Actually, a couple days before Christmas, I started warning about a potential double top on the weekly coming up. I warned about the RSI divergence. Everything that I've been talking about, I warned about Trump's inauguration on the 20th probably being a high, at least for a midterm correction, if not a full-on market top. I called that exact day, and a Stuber fib setup is exactly what I was looking for, you guys. I know December 23rd I posted about it, that I was looking for a Stuber fib on January 20th. And although we did go above my 786, 886, we never even got close to my invalidation. So that Stuber fib was literally, that was the top. That day, that price, all of it. So the fact that it's all been playing out so perfectly to what I was kind of predicting late last year, since it's been playing out so perfectly and nothing has changed, that's why my opinion has not changed yet. I know a lot of people are saying, well, yeah, if we go smash through 95K, that means you're getting wrecked because you're bearish. Guys, I'm still in a short from 101.6K. All right, from back here, I'm still in a short from here. That was very much a hedge, just like kind of that short that I took recently. It was very much the same thing, but at this level, after we got a nice reaction off this Stuber fib back here, as soon as I saw a weakness on the 5-minute, I took a short and I'm still in part of that position. So I don't care if we bounce from here. Yeah, I've taken some nice profits on some short positions. So all that changes when I'm bearish like this is the direction. I'm just willing to trade the downside. I still hold most of my spot investments and stuff like that. It's nothing personal against the market. I'm just trying to trade to make money. And that's why I'm willing to trade the downside. So Hurley waiting for that 9111 to enter short. Yeah, I think that's we may not get to that level. I'm like I said on the 4-hour, it's been very rare that we have actually got those full-on retests of those Stuber fibs. But that being said, if we get up to those levels, right, it doesn't have to, but if we get up to those levels, I will very much so be aggressively looking for shorts. Are we in a bullish pocket on the 5-minute? I would say there's not a bullish one. That may have been a while ago already. But no, the last time we actually broke any sort of potential, and it actually never even played out. But this was really the only microstructure that I can find that ended up breaking to the upside. And then there was not even a Stuber fib reaction off that. But even that's so micro analyzing, right? Because, unless you're talking about this, I see, sorry about that. You are correct. I very much see a Stuber fib right here. And thank you for pointing that out, because I'm actually going to lock in a little bit more profits on my short. And now I have to look a little closer. So even, guys, here's a perfect example. So even though I'm not sure yet if I'm going to take another long on this, we're obviously at a Stuber fib level. We're clearly getting to support. So I am willing to at least look at it as a buy level. And since I'm in a short, I don't mind taking some profits off the table. So basically looking at something like this, like I mentioned earlier with my AI charting tools, we have a higher low printed here. So I could look something like this. So we are technically below this level, but the invalidation is still way down here at around 86.9. So I'm actually going to get an order ready, because I think I will probably end up taking another scalp because there's such a tight invalidation. I'm just getting ready to pull the trigger. So that's on the 5-minute. This is the 1 minute. Yeah, I'm going to start a small long right now. The stop loss is going to be down here. I'm also going to add a little bit if we get closer to my invalidation, just to bring my average entry down. Because this is just one of those times where it's not that I'm bullish, you guys. It's just that I'm looking at a tight risk reward setup here. And basically, if I can bring my average entry down, I got to see how it ends up playing out. But if I can get it even something down like that, and I have a setup something like that, I mean, that's a 6.5 to 1 risk reward ratio. So that's a very tight risk type of setup. I'm not going to add to it quite yet. I'm probably going to wait until we get very close to my invalidation just to tighten it up as much as I can. And at that point, it's like, yeah, it looks weak and I might get stopped out. But I do see what you're looking at there. I hope that's the one you're talking about. I guess I could catch up on the chat again. Dan Rab, nice to see you here. Welcome, welcome. Paco, Tony Vase, him and Matt usually do the morning show. I usually do some evening shows, teach about some Stuber fibs, some of my favorite trading strategies, looking at more of scalping, active trading, that kind of stuff. Again, guys, if you do want to learn more about how I look at structure, how I use my Fibonacci strategies, some of those educational videos about my favorite strategies, and just some of my overall thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor, scan that QR code. Like I said, I was warning about this little sell-off that we had just because of some of the indicators I had were lining up there, so got into a beauty trade there. Yeah, we've crushed some nice trades in there, so gonna have to see what happens here. Yeah, it's not that I'm bullish at all, but the fact that we're pulling back into this support level here, and I already have this nice short from up here, I don't mind swinging at another little scalp. How that is the one. Perfect. Yeah, I thought so when I zoomed out. Sorry, at first I was really zoomed into the old micro time frames there. But even now, that since we know we're at a 5-minute support level, this is where if you wanted to be a little bit pickier, you could wait until the 1 minute, for example, breaks a little bit of structure. I don't like the fact that we ended up actually closing a candle, even though it's just a 1 minute, but closing it below that support. But we'll have to see here. Something that would be ideal is, since we're at 5-minute support here, if we could end up breaking the micro lower high, something like this, then I would love a pullback and get something like that to add to my position. Because at that point, we would actually have some sort of a microstructure break followed by a pullback, right? I'm just assuming that's a Stuber fib because from an eyeball, yeah, right around the 786 there. Like I said, you just start to see them eventually. But yeah, that's something that I would be interested in adding to that position. Because like I said, I just started a small one for now. And I'm looking to double down fairly soon if I get any confirmations that this is actually going to hold as support, or we just get very close to my invalidation, in which case I'm just looking at it as just too tight of a stop loss to not do it, kind of a thing. How are you all feeling on the market anyways? Do you guys think that the bottom is in? Do you think we're going way lower? How is everyone feeling? I'm bearish until proven otherwise, but that does not mean that I think we're going straight down. I think it's very possible we still climb a little bit higher, but we'll have to see. I'm mostly trading the 5-minute and the 1 minute anyways, but I still am very much aware of what the 4 hour is doing and the 4 hour levels that I'm very interested in. basically here as resistance and here as support at this time. We're trying to reclaim that level. We'll see what happens here. That being said, guys, I think that's about all I really wanted to go over today. I just, yesterday I wasn't feeling so well, so I never ended up fitting a stream in, and I know it's been a few days, so I really wanted to just get a quick one in there today. Yeah, hopefully you guys did find this stream useful. If so, be sure to please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these streams. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram where I share some of my trade theories, trade setup ideas, and just my overall thoughts on the markets, there is a link down below for that. And you can follow the steps there or scan the QR code on the screen here. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evening. With that, I'm out. Peace.